Kirk Douglas flipped a table and stormed into the kitchen. He grabbed the restaurant owner by the throat and slammed him against the wall. Pots crashed, plates shattered. The entire restaurant went silent, all because of what that owner did to a 70-year-old cook. This is the story they tried to bury. March 14th, 1961. A small diner called Rosario's on the east side of Los Angeles. Nothing fancy. Checkered tablecloths. Coffee that had been sitting too long. The kind of place working people came for a cheap meal. Kirk Douglas walked in around 7 in the evening. He was alone. No entourage, no publicity. Just a man who wanted a quiet dinner away from Hollywood. He sat in a corner booth, ordered the meatloaf special, opened a newspaper. The diner was half full. Families, couples. A few men eating alone at the counter. Everything was normal. Then the shouting started. It came from the kitchen. A man's voice, loud, angry. The words were muffled by the swinging door, but the tone was unmistakable. Kirk looked up from his paper. The kitchen door burst open. The owner of the restaurant, a heavy man named Vincent Rosario, was dragging someone by the arm. An old man, thin, white hair, wearing a stained cook's apron. The old cook stumbled, nearly falling. Vincent yanked him upright. "You think you can embarrass me?" Vincent's face was purple with rage. Table 6 has been waiting 40 minutes for their food. 40 minutes. The old cook's voice was weak, shaking. "Mr. Rosario, please. The stove was broken. I had to—" Vincent slapped him. The sound cracked through the silent diner. The old man's head snapped to the side. He stumbled, caught himself on a table. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Vincent grabbed the cook's apron, pulling him close. "You're done. You hear me? 60 years old, and you can't even cook a steak on time. You're worthless. You're fired." He shoved the old man. The cook hit a table, knocking over glasses. Water spilled everywhere. "Get out of my restaurant." Vincent was screaming now. "Get out before I throw you out myself." The old cook was crying, tears running down his weathered face. "Please, Mr. Rosario, I've worked here for 15 years. I have nowhere else to go. My wife is sick. I need this job. Please." Vincent laughed. That cruel laugh of a man who enjoys power. "Should have thought of that before you made me look bad. Now get—" A table flipped. The crash was deafening. Plates, glasses, silverware, all of it flying through the air. Kirk Douglas was on his feet. He moved fast, faster than anyone expected. Past the stunned customers, past the overturned table, straight toward Vincent Rosario. Vincent turned. His eyes went wide. "What the hell do you think you're—" Kirk grabbed him by the throat. With one hand, Kirk lifted Vincent off his feet and slammed him against the kitchen door. The door flew open. Both men crashed into the kitchen. Pots fell, pans clattered. A rack of dishes collapsed. Kirk pinned Vincent against the wall, his forearm across Vincent's throat, his face inches away. "You like hitting old men?" Kirk's voice was quiet, controlled, terrifying. Vincent tried to speak. Kirk pressed harder. "Shut up! I'm talking now!" Kirk leaned closer. "I watched you drag that man out of his kitchen. I watched you humiliate him in front of everyone. I watched you slap a 70-year-old man because his stove was broken." Kirk's eyes were ice. "What kind of man does that? What kind of animal beats an old cook because his dinner was late?" Vincent's face was turning red. He clawed at Kirk's arm. Kirk didn't budge. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to that man. You're going to give him his job back, and you're going to pay him double for every year he's worked here." Vincent's eyes bulged. He managed to choke out words. "You're crazy. I'll call the police." Kirk smiled. That smile that made audiences shiver in movie theaters. "Call them. Tell them Kirk Douglas assaulted you because you beat an elderly employee. Tell them I watched you slap a 70-year-old man, and I did nothing. See how that story plays in the papers tomorrow." Kirk released the pressure slightly, just enough for Vincent to breathe. "Or, you can do what I said. Apologize. Give him his job. Pay him what he deserves. And I walk out of here and we never speak of this again." Kirk waited. "Your choice, Vincent. Make it fast." Vincent's eyes darted around the kitchen, looking for help, looking for escape, finding neither. "Fine." His voice was a rasp. "Fine. He gets his job back. And I'll apologize. And," Vincent closed his eyes, "and I'll pay him." Kirk released him. Vincent slumped against the wall, gasping for air. Kirk straightened his jacket, brushed off his sleeves. Good choice. Kirk walked back into the dining room. Every eye was on him. Customers frozen in their seats, waitresses pressed against the walls. The old cook was still standing where Vincent had left him, tears still wet on his face, but now there was something else in his eyes. Disbelief. Kirk walked up to him. "What's your name?" The cook's voice trembled. "Ernesto. Ernesto Delgado." Kirk extended his hand. "I'm Kirk, and I'm sorry you had to go through that, Ernesto." Ernesto shook Kirk's hand. His grip was weak. His whole body was shaking. "Why?" Ernesto whispered. "Why did you do that? You don't know me." Kirk looked at him. Really looked at him. "My mother worked in a factory for 30 years. She came home every night with her hands bleeding, her back broken. Nobody ever stood up for her. Nobody ever said she deserved better." Kirk's voice cracked slightly. "I can't go back in time and help my mother, but I can help you. Right here. Right now." Ernesto broke down, his whole body shaking with sobs. Kirk put his arm around the old man's shoulders. "It's okay. It's over now. You have your job, and if that man ever touches you again, you call me. Understand?" Ernesto nodded, unable to speak. Kirk reached into his wallet, pulled out $200. "This is for your wife's medicine. Don't argue. Just take it." He pressed the money into Ernesto's hand. Vincent appeared in the kitchen doorway. His face was pale. His throat was red. He looked at Ernesto. "I'm sorry." The words came out like broken glass. "You can have your job back, and I'll pay you more." Ernesto stared at him. 15 years of abuse. 15 years of insults. And now, finally, an apology. "Thank you, Mr. Rosario." Kirk turned to Vincent. "Remember what I said. Double what you're paying him. And if I hear you touched him again, I'll be back. And next time, I won't be so gentle." Kirk walked toward the exit. The diner was still silent. At the door, Kirk stopped, turned back. The meatloaf was pretty good, by the way. He smiled at Ernesto. "You're a hell of a cook." He walked out into the night. Ernesto Delgado worked at Rosario's for another 12 years. Vincent never touched him again, never yelled at him, barely spoke to him, except to say, "Please and thank you." Fear will do that to a man. In 1973, Ernesto retired. He was 82 years old. His hands were too shaky to cook anymore. But he left with a pension, dignity, and a story he told to everyone who would listen. "The night Kirk Douglas saved my job," Ernesto would say, his eyes lighting up. "The night a movie star threw a man against a wall for me." Ernesto passed away in 1981, peaceful, surrounded by family. His grandson, Miguel Delgado, grew up hearing the story. Every Christmas, every birthday, every family gathering. Grandpa was a cook, Miguel's mother would say. And Kirk Douglas once beat up his boss for hitting him. Miguel didn't believe it. It sounded like a fairy tale. Movie stars don't beat up restaurant owners for old cooks. But the story stayed with him. In 2015, Miguel Delgado was 52 years old and one of the most respected chefs in Los Angeles. 3 restaurants, 2 Michelin stars, a James Beard Award, A journalist interviewed him for a food magazine. "Chef Delgado, what inspired you to become a chef?" Miguel smiled. "My grandfather, Ernesto Delgado. He cooked at a little diner called Rosario's for almost 30 years." The journalist asked what made his grandfather special. Miguel's eyes grew distant. He almost quit. In 1961, his boss was a monster, used to hit him, humiliate him. One night, the boss slapped him in front of the whole restaurant, told him he was fired. Miguel paused. My grandfather was going to walk away, give up on cooking forever, give up on everything. What happened? Kirk Douglas happened. The journalist's eyes widened. Miguel told the story. The slap, the flipped table, Kirk grabbing Vincent by the throat, the apology. My grandfather worked 12 more years after that night. He taught my mother to cook. She taught me. Everything I am, every dish I create, goes back to that diner in 1961. Miguel looked at the journalist. Kirk Douglas didn't just save my grandfather's job. He saved my family's future. 3 restaurants, 2 Michelin stars, all because one man decided that a 70-year-old cook deserved to be treated with dignity. The journalist asked if Miguel had ever thanked Kirk Douglas. Miguel nodded. I wrote him a letter in 2016. He was 99 years old. His son helped him write back. What did he say? Miguel pulled out a framed letter, worn from being read 100 times. He said, "Your grandfather made the best meatloaf I ever had. I'm glad I could return the favor." Miguel wiped his eyes. That letter hangs in every one of my restaurants, right next to a picture of my grandfather. He looked at the journalist. Kirk Douglas taught me something that night. Food isn't just about cooking. It's about dignity. It's about treating people with respect. Every person who works in my kitchen is family, and nobody ever gets treated the way my grandfather was treated. Miguel smiled through his tears. That's Kirk Douglas's real legacy, not the movies, the meatloaf, and the man who flipped a table to defend the cook who made it. And sometimes, if you look closely at the old photographs from Hollywood's golden age, you can still see it. Not the fame, not the awards, but the look in a man's eyes when he chose principle over comfort. Kirk Douglas played tough guys on screen, but off-screen, he was tougher. In an industry built on pretending, his courage was the only real thing that lasted. Is there a moment in your life where you wish someone had stood up for you? Or a moment where you stood up for someone else? Hollywood has many secrets, but these are the ones worth telling. If you want to know the real stories, the ones they didn't put in the magazines, you're in the right place. We are peeling back the curtain on the man who never bent. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Kirk Douglas, the man who never bent. We are just getting started. There are stories about Bert, about Spartacus, and about the moments that defined a legend. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Leave a comment below. What would you have done in Kirk's position? I'll see you in the next video. Never bend.